If you wanted to destroy the most powerful military in the world, what would you do? Well, among the many things you might try is hosting drag queen story hours on military bases for kids. And today, Congressman Matt Gaetz, who represents maybe more uniformed military than anybody in the Congress, confronted the defense secretary about it directly. Watch.
How much taxpayer money should go to fund drag queen story hours on military bases?
You know, drag queen story hours is not something that the department funds.
Well, wait a second. That's actually not what the record seems to suggest. You were going to fund one at Ramstein Air Force Base. That one got canceled, but that's DOD insignia. That's a drag queen story hour for children. Then also at Malmstrom Air Force Base outside of Great Falls, Montana, you had a drag queen story hour for kids. Who funded these things, Mr. Secretary?
Listen, drag shows are not something that the Department of Defense supports or funds.
Yeah, a liar. Board member to defense contractor before he got this job. So then Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, admitted that he was not aware military bases were hosting drag queen story hours. Watch this.
Can I get copies of those? Because I'd like to take a look at those myself, actually. Take a look and find out what actually is going on there. Because that's the first I'm hearing about that kind of stuff. I don't read those news stories. I don't know what you're talking about. I'd like to take a look at those because I don't agree with those.
Well, they're now in the official record.
Shouldn't be happening.
Thank you. Thank you for that admission.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to go. You know, so not an open-minded guy. Matt Gaetz represents North Florida in the U.S. Congress. Even if he never passes a bill, it's worth having him there just for moments like this. It's just amazing. What was your, being on the questioning side, what was your feeling about their responses?
America's top military leaders have brought misery to almost every part of the globe they have touched. They put Iran in a position of power in Iraq. They armed ISIS in Syria. They turned over Afghanistan to the Taliban in the bloodiest way possible. We could have taken out the suicide bomber, didn't give the authorities. They didn't even get the vengeance part right, Tucker. When they were supposed to take out ISIS, they took out a family on the way to a barbecue. And so now you see them trying to bring the misery and the ruin home to our country through this embrace of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is real money. $70 million they've requested for enhancements to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is the most divisive stuff possible. And when I showed the Secretary of Defense evidence that it was happening in Nevada, in Montana, in Virginia, he just said, nope, it's not happening. And it makes you wonder, do these people have any sense of reality, or is the pain the point, whether it's DEI or the vaccine mandate, that they still don't have good answers for?
But in the end, it means that nobody wants to join the military, and their recruiting numbers are dangerously down. Do they see a connection between their reckless, crazy behavior and the unwillingness of people to join up voluntarily?
We are in a recruiting collapse, and they say, well, we don't think DEI is the problem because we've sent out surveys and no one says it's the problem. They don't realize that the people offended by this conduct aren't going to take their stupid survey. Let me just be honest. A great share of the people who fight in our military come from the American South. And when you embrace these values that are so antithetical to the part of the country I represent, you are really putting a downward pressure on the people we need to volunteer and fight, not for some faraway land, not to go build some democracy out of sand in Arabia, but for our country. And you have to wonder whether it is incompetence or a purposeful purge. I also pressed them on making sure we get our service members their full back pay and restoration of rank. Austin said he would not do that in the absence of a legal requirement to do so. So that is precisely the amendment I intend to offer to our National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah. When you say you hate white men, you do kind of wonder, like, who's going to fight the wars then? Because that's who's always fought the wars. Actually.
Well, General Milley maybe didn't go to the drag queen show because he was too busy getting in touch with his white rage still. Who knows? Yeah. But he gets credit for saying he wants to shut him down.
Loathsome. Matt Gaetz, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So Mark Milley says he didn't know there were drag queen story hours going on at military bases, but maybe more significantly, he's also not sure where all the weapons that we're sending to Ukraine have wound up. So yesterday, Joe Manchin, Democrat from West Virginia, asked Milley if he could speak to his, quote, confidence in the U.S. NATO Ukrainian weapons accountability. Here was his response.
We do not have any uniformed troops or civilians for that matter, accompany Ukrainian forces in the front line. We do have folks working out of the embassy, so they're working at the Ministry of Defense level, and that's as far as our hands-on accountability goes. We do have some other means through reporting that the Ukrainians report to us, and I'll be happy to talk about that in a classified session, but there are some means and mechanisms of doing some accountability. It is not as rigorous as you might think.
Yeah, not as rigorous. J.D. Vance has served in the United States Marine Corps. Now he serves in the United States Senate, representing the state of Ohio. He joins us tonight. Senator, thank you so much for coming. So when you hear the chairman of the Joint Chiefs say, we're not exactly sure where the advanced weapon systems are going, how do you feel about that?
Well, Tucker, it's outrageous, but unfortunately it confirms what we basically already know, which is that we've sent $113 billion, probably more than that, Tucker, probably more like $130 billion to the most corrupt country on the face of the planet, and we have no real idea how those resources have been spent. The most important part of this, Tucker, and I've done a very deep dive into this, is we do not make enough bullets in this country to support multiple fronts of multiple wars. When I talk about bullets, I mean ammunition, munitions, artillery shells, some of the advanced missile systems. So when we talk about sending $120 billion worth of weapons to Ukraine, those are weapons that we could not send to Taiwan or other parts of the world that would actually be in the service of American national interest. This entire idea that we can focus on Russia and we can focus on China is a farce. These guys shipped our entire industrial base to China in the first place. We don't make enough of our own weapons. And the fact that we're sending it to Ukraine with so little accountability is the very reason why China's threat and power is growing in the world today.
Yeah, and we're about to lose the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency and tank our economy. I agree with that. I wonder, has there been a concerted effort from the Congress to find out who's gotten rich from this? Many people have, clearly. Do we know who they are?
We don't know who they are, Tucker, in part because the Biden administration won't give us answers. I actually submitted a letter. One of the first things that I did as a U.S. Senator is ask for a full accounting of where the resources that we've sent to Ukraine have gone. The Biden administration has been very resistant, even in classified settings, to be honest with us. And Tucker, I have to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's because they have no idea where those $120 billion have gone or if they just don't want to tell us. But what we can be almost certain is that some very dark, very evil people have gotten very wealthy from that $120 billion. I hope that it's done some good too, but the simple fact is we don't know, and there has not been a full accounting of this stuff.
It's the recklessness is just awe-inspiring. I mean, it's just drunk driving the whole country. I mean, it's unbelievable. Senator Vance of Ohio, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Tucker.